All right, I'm gonna predict the future. I'm gonna toss this coin into the air and it's gonna land on heads. Watch this. Nailed it. Now, since I got it right, does that mean I have divine powers? Because that's exactly how people treat prophecy in religion. Christians love to say fulfilled prophecy proves Christianity is true. But if that's the case, then prophecy can prove other religions to be true too. And trust me, some of their predictions are way more specific than the ones in the Bible. Don't believe me? Well, let's talk about the Mormons today. And I'll give you a hint. They do a lot better on prophecy than the Christians do. But I'll also explain how religions trick their followers into believing that they can predict the future. Let's get right into it. All right, let's play a game. I'm gonna put a prophecy up on the screen and you tell me whether it came from Christianity or Mormonism. If you guessed Mormonism, you're right. Joseph Smith predicted the Civil War 29 years before it happened, with details. Pretty crazy, right? And for everyone getting ready to Google this on their phones, I promise you, this is real. While Christian prophecies are usually pretty vague, the prophecy by the head of the Mormon religion was very specific, and it came true. So does that mean that Mormonism is the real faith and Christianity is a lie? Well, I'll come back to the Civil War prophecy in just a moment. First, let's start with the Christian prophecy basics. Christians often claim that the Bible contains hundreds of fulfilled prophecies, which proves its divine authorship. These prophecies are supposed to be evidence that God is real, Jesus is the Messiah, and the Bible is trustworthy. And Christians point to some big ones, but you'll quickly start to see that they have some problems. The first one I want to talk about is the prophecy about the birth of Jesus. We have talked about this one before. If you look in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, it's that famous verse. It says, "Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." Now, Christians claim this prophecy was fulfilled in Matthew 1:23 when Jesus was born. But there's a problem here. The Hebrew word translated as virgin is the word Alma, and it actually just means young woman. It doesn't specifically mean a woman who hasn't had sex. And there's a big difference between saying that a young woman who was a virgin would conceive and that a virgin would conceive. One is normal, the other is impossible. So this mistranslation forced the church into a belief that the prophet wasn't even trying to relay. And most scholars believe that this verse actually refers to a child from Isaiah's time period, not the Messiah. Why? Well, let's keep reading verse 15. It says, "Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good." Did Jesus eat butter and honey? Not that we know of. None of the gospel authors thought it was important enough to fulfill this prophecy. Now, I don't know about you, but this is enough for me to question this prophecy. But let's look at another one. Jesus' prophecy about the end times in Matthew 24, 6 and 7. It says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." Now, Christians say that this proves we are in the end times because we see wars, we see famines, we see disasters all around us. I mean, it almost seems like they aren't really trying here. Wars, famines, and disasters have happened in literally every generation in history. It's like predicting that humans will breathe oxygen in the future. It's not exactly impressive. And again, while you could argue that this prophecy came true, what other details did Jesus prophesy at the same time? Well, look at Matthew 24, verse 34. He says, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all of these things be fulfilled." This is the second time Jesus made this claim. We look back in Matthew 16, verse 28. He said, "Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Well, I have bad news for this prophecy. Everyone standing there that day tasted of death already. So has this prophecy actually failed? And yet Christians still point to wars and rumors of wars earlier in the chapter as if it proves the Bible is true. So Christian prophecy has some real issues, especially if you realize it's just vague predictions, mistranslations, and selective reading. But here's the kicker. Mormon prophecy does the exact same thing, but in my opinion, it actually does it better. So let's go back to Mormonism. Joseph Smith, the founder of the LDS Church, made dozens of prophecies, many of which Mormons claim have been fulfilled. But here's what makes this so interesting. Unlike Christian prophecies, which are usually poetic or vague, very open to interpretation, some of the Mormon prophecies are shockingly specific. And if Christians get to claim prophecy as proof of divine inspiration, well, we need to take a serious look at these. So let's dive in. Let's start with the big one. Joseph Smith predicted the Civil War 29 years before it happened. And he didn't just say there will be a war someday. No. He called out South Carolina by name as the place it would start. The exact wording? He said a great war will begin at the rebellion of South Carolina. The southern states shall be divided against the northern states. Okay, that's oddly specific. And what happened? In 1861, South Carolina was the first state to secede, triggering the Civil War. It's not like he just said, there's gonna be wars or rumors of wars like the Bible does. This was an actual location-based prediction. So now we have a problem. If Christian prophecy proves Christianity, does this prove Mormonism? Or is this just a lucky guess? Well, let's look at another Mormon prophecy to see what we can find there. All right, maybe the Civil War thing was a lucky fluke, but let's look at this one. In 1847, Joseph Smith prophesied that the Mormon followers would go west and build a great city. What were his words? "Fear not thine enemies, for they shall not have power to stop my work." Well, today, Salt Lake City is the center of the Mormon world, and the LDS Church is one of the wealthiest religious organizations on the planet. Was he just guessing? Or did he actually foresee the rise of a city no one had even settled yet? Or was it just a logical conclusion? Like, let's be real, if you get kicked out of every town you try to settle in, eventually you're gonna find some land where no one else lives and set up shop. Did Joseph Smith predict Salt Lake City? Or did he just make a plan and follow through? Because if that's prophecy, then I can predict right now, I'm gonna eat pizza later, and when I order that pizza, boom, fulfilled prophecy. Okay, last one. This is one of the biggest prophecies that Mormons claim. Joseph Smith prophesied that Mormonism would spread to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And today, Mormon missionaries are in over 100 countries. The LDS Church claims that this is the proof that Joseph Smith's vision was divinely inspired. But let's be honest, every major religion expands. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, they all grew globally. This isn't prophecy, it's just how religions work. It's like if I started a new fast food chain and prophesied that one day we'd have restaurants all over the world. And then after 100 years of aggressive marketing and business expansion, people said, see, he was a prophet. No, I just set a goal. That's different. So, was Joseph Smith a real prophet? Well, if we're using the same logic that Christians use for their prophecies, this would mean that Mormonism has divine proof as well. But let's look a little closer at prophecies in general, because it seems like all religious prophecies work the same way. You see, Christians use prophecy as proof for their faith, but when another religion makes similar or even better, prophecies, suddenly prophecy doesn't count anymore. They're basically like,
well, our predictions are real, but your predictions, those are just coincidences.
imagine if I predicted that the sun would rise tomorrow. And you made a prediction. You predict that the stock market will crash next year. When your prediction comes true, I say, nah, that doesn't really count. Even though your prediction is actually less likely than mine. Of course the sun's coming up tomorrow. That's exactly how Christians treat Mormonism. If fulfilled prophecy proves Christianity, then why doesn't it prove Mormonism? And if Mormon prophecy is just lucky guesses, then what does that say about Christian prophecy? So here's the real reason why Christian and Mormon prophecies seem to work, and I'll give you 3 of them. Number 1, they're vague enough to always apply to something. Most religious prophecies are worded so broadly that they could fit almost any historical event, and this is called the Barnum effect. It's a psychological phenomena where people see vague statements as highly specific to them. The example we looked at in Matthew 24 says, "You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars." Well, there's never been a time in human history when we didn't have wars and rumors of wars. It could apply to literally any generation. The Mormon example of this could be that of the Mormon global expansion. Every major religion claims global expansion as a part of their mission. Islam, Christianity, or Buddhism have all spread worldwide. And this was bound to happen anyway. So when these prophecies come true, it is not divine foresight. It's just a prediction, so general that it was inevitable. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is they are self-fulfilling prophecies. Some prophecies come true because people actively work to fulfill them, sometimes without realizing it. An easy example of this is Jesus fulfilling Old Testament prophecy. In Luke 22:37, Jesus says, "For I say unto you that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me." He literally quotes prophecy to make sure people associate it with him. If someone knows about a prophecy and then deliberately acts it out, is that supposed to be a fulfilled prophecy? This can also be compared to the Mormon Exodus in Salt Lake City. Joseph Smith prophesied that his followers would be persecuted and would settle in the West. Then, when they were persecuted, they deliberately moved west, just like the prophecy said. But did Joseph Smith predict the future? Or did his followers simply just make it happen? It's like if I predicted that one day this YouTube channel is gonna have 100,000 subscribers. And then I spend years making videos and promoting them, and all of a sudden, that happens. It's not prophecy, it's determination. So these prophecies, they're vague on purpose, they're self-fulfilling. And third, they rely on selective memory. You see, people tend to remember the hits and they forget the misses. It's called confirmation bias. We've all heard this term. We only focus on what actually supports what we already believe. So the example there for Christians is that end time prophecy. Every generation thinks they're the last one. People said World War I was proof of the end times. Then it was World War II. Then the Cold War, then 9/11, COVID-19. Every time something bad happens, people say, see, this is the prophecy from the Bible. But they ignore all the times that bad things happened and the world didn't end. And the Mormons do this too. We saw that Civil War prophecy from the Mormons, but Joseph Smith also prophesied that all nations would be involved, which didn't happen. The South Carolina part was right, so Mormons focus on that and they ignore the wrong parts. And this is what we're talking about here. It's how all religious prophecy works, not just Christianity or Mormonism. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I'll tell you where I stand. I don't see any of these as being true or proof that these religions are real. But of course, I want to hear from you. Do you think that these are fulfilled prophecies? Do they actually prove anything? If not, Why do Christians still use it as evidence? Let me know in the comments. Drop some thoughts below. I'll join you there in the comments. I'm really curious to see what you think. And if you enjoyed this video, as always, make sure you're subscribed and take a look at the series we just completed if you haven't seen it yet. It was called New Testament for Skeptics. It gives a high-level overview on my thoughts about the errors, the contradictions, and the historical inaccuracies that we find when we compare the Gospels to each other. Thanks again for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one.